Hi everyone, welcome back to Fingerstyle Ukulele with me, Matt Stead. In today's video we're going to look at another new piece of repertoire. This one is called the Aurelian. That was the old 19th century term for a butterfly hunter, if you're interested. And this piece is written in the key of C major, but it has an almost minor melancholy to it, which hopefully you'll find quite beautiful. It's written in 3/4 time, so it's another waltz. We're going to explore a few new techniques today. Things like 3-finger rolls, where we almost have almost like a purring quality to our chordal playing, which would be really nice. We're going to have another look at harmonics and how to play a note with a harmonic and mirror it up the fretboard. We're also going to have a look at nail brushes and thumb techniques and all sorts of fun stuff. So stay tuned, loads is going to be covered today. Before we do anything else though, let's take a look at the song. I'll have a little play through and you can use this as a play along when you're ready or just to get an idea of how the song sounds. Let's have a listen. So there we have it, a lovely melancholy waltz. Now the arrangement is very similar to Psy waltz in the style of chord melody. We have a simple melody, and we have some chords. Da 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 da. And when we put the chords and melody together, what do we get? Hey presto, chord melody. Now in Psy waltz we did pretty much everything with our thumb, didn't we? And to highlight those melody notes, we strummed down over the top strings with our thumb and we stopped whenever we hit the melody. That way the melody note rang true and clear and we still had the sound of a chord. Now we're going to do a very similar thing in this piece, only we're going to use something called finger rolls, sometimes called a rolled strum. And it will sound something like this. Did you hear that almost like a purring quality to the chords? In effect, what is happening is rather than using our thumb to strum down, we're actually picking 3 notes one at a time. The G string, the C string, and then the E string. And by picking at the right speed, because the melody note is the last string that we hit, it's slightly delayed, so you hear it coming through louder and crisper than the other notes. That's how this technique works. In effect, what I'm doing is I'm picking the G string with my thumb, followed by the C string with my index finger, followed by the E string with my middle finger. Now, this is quite a tricky technique to get, and I struggled with this for years. And my actual most favourite things to teach are those things that I struggled with, because I had to work out how to do it best. And I can pass on all my little pitfalls and things that I shouldn't have done and make sure you don't do that. And teach you the good stuff, hopefully. So the trouble with finger rolls is people try, including me, to be too clever about it. And they'll put all their fingers on before they get to the chord, and they'll try and kind of do this fancy kind of peeling off technique. It doesn't need to be anywhere near as complicated as that, you'd be glad to hear. At its simplest, all we need to do to practice it is to hold our finger on wherever the melody note is, in this case the 3rd fret of the E string, and then just practice arm coming at a nice angle, not flattened like this. You're going to use the pad of your thumb or the middle of the nail of your thumb to pick down on the G string, up on the C string with your index, and then up on the E string with your ring finger. And I want you to practice one after another really slowly like this. Notice that my fingers aren't starting on the strings, they're starting just about ½ centimetre away, so close enough they can reach the string quickly, but they're not going to interfere. And we're going to pick G string, C string, E string. Now the best way to practice that is a simple arpeggio, picking it really slowly, one note at a time. Keeping each one roughly the same volume and timbre. Then what you want to do is gradually increase the tempo, and this might take a few days or even weeks to do, but just go a little bit faster. Up there. When you think you're comfortable with that, if you're feeling super brave, and whenever you're ready, if you're not there yet, take your time, just increase the tempo again. And that is basically as fast as you need to go. One of the biggest pitfalls in this rolled strum is people try and do it too quick. But actually I think it takes away the beauty. You don't hear those notes rolling into another. So that there is about as quick as you ever need to be. Practice it slowly, build up your confidence, starting slow, bit faster again, bit faster again, and we're there. And you'll find your own kind of tempo where it feels just about right for you. Remember, keep those fingers about ½ centimetre away from the strings, so you can pop each one down just before you need to pick the string and then roll them up into your hand. Try not to have all 3 on the strings before you pick it, because otherwise you won't get a clear roll and it will sound muddy. Let's give that lovely rolled strum a go for the first 2 measures then. So we're going to put our finger on that G note, the 3rd fret of the E string, and we're going to roll to it like this. Straight away after that, our finger's in the right place for the next 2 notes, and I'm going to use, you could use alternating fingers, but to keep things simplest, I'm just going to use my middle finger to pick the 2 G notes that follow. So that gives me a rolled and 2 Gs. Then I do one more of the rolled strums. This time I go to an F on the 1st fret of the E string and off for the E. Let's put those first 2 measures together. 1, 2, 3. Fantastic. Now, if you're really struggling with those rolls, but you want to play along with this song, there's another lovely simple way you can do it. I just wanted to teach this roll technique because it's a lovely sound and it's something you can put in lots of pieces. But if you're not quite ready for that, just use your thumb coming down as a gentle drag, just like we did in Psy Waltz, which will also have a lovely, lovely tone, just slightly different. Now, the first 2 measures, the timing's really simple. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Notice the next measure, we've got a D minor chord, but we're only going to do the rolled strum or thumb drag on the top 2 strings physically. But also notice that it's a quaver, that means it's got a little tail on the note. That means we want to play it twice as quick as all the notes so far. So that gives us, hear that? I kind of think of that measure as 1 and 2, 3. Let's try that together. 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2, 3. Brilliant. Let's piece those first 3 measures together. 1, 2, 3. Fantastic. Now we need some resolution. So here it resolves to an A minor chord. Just take away everything but your second finger on that G string, and again we have another roll. Put those 4 together. 1, 2, 3. Isn't that effective? Really simple, but quite pretty, I think. Next up we have a B flat chord, but because the melody note is only on the E string, it's this F note, the 1s. Because of that, we don't need to hold down that pesky barred B flat that a lot of people don't like. You don't even need to do the mini bar down here. Just hold down 3, 2, 1, and we're going to do that 3-finger roll onto the E string. Hit the 2 F notes. Same again. Take away just your index finger for the E note that follows. Then we go to an F chord and we do a similar thing, the 3-finger roll. Take your finger off for the E note, hit the D note, and then roll an F. Notice that F at the end, just those top 3 strings physically again. So if I go from the measures with those B flats, very slowly after 3, it will sound something like this. 1, 2, 3. Good. Now, at the start of the next section, we're back to doing the first 4 measures again, basically. So perhaps let's try that all together, the next 4 measures after 4. Get your finger on that G note, 3rd fret of the E string, measure number 9, 1, 2, 3. Then we have the B flat section again, very similar as before with that roll to the E string. Then at the end of that second line, we've got this G note that comes in. Because we don't want to interrupt this lovely B flat chord, try hitting the G note with your little finger on the 3rd fret of that E string. It will allow that B flat chord to still ring out underneath as you hit that G note. You can hit the open A string. Then the next line, resolve to the F chord. And then we have one final chord in this section, another F. Now that last F, notice, it covers 4 strings. So what I'd like you to do to change the dynamics from all of the 3-finger rolls that we've been doing so far in the song, and to prepare for the next section, on this chord I'm going to get you to use all of the nails on your right hand, or 2 or 3 nails, whatever feels comfortable, and just do a nail brush, dragging your nails of your strumming hand gently over all of the strings, roughly where the body of the uke meets the neck. If I pair that with the measure before, measure 15, it will sound something like this. Notice it's slightly brighter and it gives us a change in the dynamics, which is what we're after. Okay, should we be brave? Let's see if we can do the whole of that first section. It's just practicing those finger rolls, isn't it? Or your thumb drag, taking it nice and slowly, making sure we stop when we hit that melody note. Let's give it a go all together after 3. 1, 2, 3. that lovely? Really well done. Absolutely fantastic if you got that. If you're not there yet, take your time, pause the video. You can come back and watch it as many times as you like. Be kind to yourself. Okay, now the B section, the second section, I want to change the dynamics slightly. Partly to create interest, but partly because we have a lot of 4-string chords, and 4-string rolls are quite tricky, and I wanted a different sound anyway. So what we're going to do with all of the chords in this next section, we're just going to strum down with our thumb like this. Now, if you prefer the slightly more brittle sound of a nail brush on the chords, you can do that if you prefer. Notice how much brighter that is. I kind of like the warmth of the thumb. But the point is, there's no right or wrong, there's no silver bullet. I want you to try both and see what you prefer, basically. Now, the chords get a little bit trickier. The first bit isn't too bad. Really think about your left hand fingering to help you with this. Because we're going to climb up the fretboard, normally when we play a C chord, we'd use our third finger, wouldn't we? But I want you to reset to your index finger for measure 17. That's going to allow you to play the C chord and move up the fretboard. I play this next C chord at the 7th fret using my little finger, which allows me to come back down again. Then we have an A minor chord with this lovely high C note, this 2003. I use my first and third fingers. Notice we've got that change in the tempo, not the tempo, change in the rhythm that we had in the first section. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, quick, slow, quick, slow. Alright, so just pay attention to that as we go into the next bit. So after I've come back down, I hit this A minor with my first and third fingers. What I like to do then is for this high D note, I like to use my little finger on the 5th fret of the A string. What that allows me to do is it allows me to travel up to the 7th fret, and then I build this G7 shape on the top 3 strings behind it. Can you see that on the 5th, 4th and 5th frets of the G, C and E strings? It looks like a G7 chord moved up and over. And that's how I remember this A minor shape up the fretboard. I think of it almost like a G7 that's been moved up and over, and your little finger's going to hit this 7th fret. It's a lovely A minor chord up the fretboard that you can use in a lot of songs. Now that's quite tricky to get all these 3 fingers to fall into the right place. So I've got 2 different options for you to help you. Try this. If you struggle to put your little finger in first and then reach back with these first 3 fingers, try putting the chord down with these first 3 fingers first and then moving your little finger up. So rather than this, you could hit it here, put your fingers down and then move your little finger up. That's a kind of a way to make it slightly easier. Another thing you can do to make it easier again is just lose this A note here, this 5th fret of the E string. I kind of like the way it sounds, but you can manage without it. That gives you 5, 4, 0, 7. It's another version of an A minor chord, but without the root here. And for many people that will be easier, because you've only got to put the 2 fingers down. Experiment with all 3 of those and see what you prefer. Generally, I actually like to take my little finger up and then put in the 3 behind it. I find it gives a more natural sound and I find it relatively comfortable. So if we practice those first few measures of the B section, it will sound like this, really slowly after 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's the one that will need the most practice. Pause the video, practice, take it slowly and come back when you're ready. Now I'm going to have a very quick aside from the piece here, just ever so quickly, to show you a little practice regime you can do for building up muscle memory on particular chords. This A minor is quite difficult if you've never played it before to get quickly. And I'm going to be completely open from the start. I nicked this from James Hill. I saw this in one of his videos and I thought it's such a good idea. I use it all the time, okay? And what we do is we play a chord that we're trying to learn, such as this A minor. Then with your fretting hand, you touch your knee or the table, whatever's in front of you once. You count the rest of the way up to 8, get your fingers in place, and then when you reach 1 again afterwards, you strum again. I'll show you what I mean. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1. Now the next time you strum, you're going to tap your knee twice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And every time you do it, you tap your knee one more time. I'll do it quick so it's not too boring for the video. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you can see that was really hard because I went super fast. But you're gradually giving you less and less time to hit that chord. So it's a brilliant way of gradually increasing the muscle memory and learning those chords. Just a cool thing to practice if you're into those kind of things. Let's get back into the arrangement then. If we have a look at measure 21, we have a suggested B flat chord. Now to help you with this, I'd like you to finger it not exactly as shown in the diagram. In the diagram we have something like this, where it looks like we have 3 fingers down. First finger on the 5th fret of the C string, 6th fret of the E string, little finger on the 8th fret of the A string. Now I'm actually going to get you to do it a different way. High G players, what I want you to do is I want you to take a G chord shape, a G major. So if you're playing a normal G major chord, and I want you to take that shape up, all the way up to the 5th fret. So you're playing, your fingers are on 5 and 6, okay? G shape taken up to 5 and 6. Then you're going to reach your little finger up to the 8th fret of the A string, okay? So a G shape with your little finger here. Now I do that for 2 reasons. The first is it's easier to remember, G shape with your little finger. But on the next measure where the melody comes back down the A string, I can strum it again, take my little finger back to the 7th fret, and when I take it off, my finger's in the right place for this D note, the 5th fret of the A string. So G shape, and it's just my little finger moving, look. Which is a lot easier than kind of having to fiddle around with different chord shapes. Now low G players, we have a B flat played as an F shape. Now you don't have to do that, you can keep it just the same as the high G players are doing like this. The only reason I've changed it is some people don't like the sound of the open low G kind of booming away. I don't particularly mind it, but some people like to really close that off. So if you are doing it the full version of the low G, just finger an F shape using your middle 2 fingers. We're going to take that shape up to the 6th and 7th fret and we bar the 5th fret. So basically it's taking an F shape up the fretboard. And then our little finger goes on that 8th fret of the A string. Okay, It's quite tricky, that one, for a bit trickier for low G players, but something you can practice for sure. But if in doubt, or if you find that too difficult, just come back to the high G version and that will work perfectly as well. Of course, the other thing you could do, low G players, is just hold that shape and just strum the bottom 3 strings physically. That'll be absolutely fine. Either way, that gives us... Then we have measure 23, we have an F chord up the fretboard. The reason that's an F chord is we've actually taken a C major shape. Try playing a C chord, but use your little finger. Then our index finger is going to replace the nut. If you move that shape up to the 1st fret, we have a C sharp, D, D sharp, E. That's a useful one if you hate the E chord played like that. And then finally we go one further, we have an F. Okay. So we keep that finger barred all the way over the strings. If you struggle with this one, just bar the bottom 3 and play the bottom 3 strings. Okay. But 4 bar will sound like this. Notice that rhythm again. Quick, long, quick, long. Fantastic. Let's try just that measure together, 23. 1, 2, 3. Lovely. Then we're back to those lovely open C chords. Gives our fingers a rest from all those bar chords, right? When you play this C chord at the 10th fret, way up here, I want you to use your 3rd finger. That's going to keep your little finger free to hit this high A note, the 12th fret of the A string. We go back to 10, and notice you've got 2 fingers free to reach back to 8 and 7. Okay. So measure 25 and 26 will sound like this. 1, 2, 3. Really good workout for this hand, isn't it? Thinking about your fingers. So maybe even make a note there to use your 3rd finger on that 10th fret for that E string. Then we visit that old chestnut, the A minor, up the fretboard again that we did a bit earlier. So remember G7 shape, moved up to the 4th and 5th fret. Only this time, because the melody note is this D note, the 5th fret of the A string, we're not going to reach up to the 7th like we did before. We're going to pull that finger back. It almost looks like an impossible chord when you see it tabbed out, doesn't it? 5, 4, 5, 5. You think, how do I do that? Well, it's that G shape on the top 3 strings physically, little finger on the 5th fret of the A string, and we strum all 4. Next 2 notes, just hit the outside 2 strings in turn. And then extend your little finger out to finish the next phrase. That will sound something like this. Very good. Well done, guys. We're nearly done with the hardest part of the song. You've done so fantastically well. The next bit, we're back to that B flat shape again. So low G is you're doing the F shape up here with your little finger on 8. Or if you want the easy version or high G is, we're going to do the G shape up at 5 and 6 and the little finger at A. We're going to go to that F shape again by barring the 5th fret. This time after we strum, we're quickly going to go back to the 7th fret and take away our fingers in the right place for the 5th fret. That's F, E, D. And then we're going to pull back to an F shape with our little finger on the 3rd fret of the A string for a high C. Okay. Let's try it from measure 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. The one with the funny A minor chord. G shape up here. Let's do it. 1, 2, 3. G shape up here. F chord, and back to this shape. Now finally, to finish off our final section of the song, I want to change the dynamics again. So we've gone from finger rolls to just using our thumb or nail brushes. Well, let's go back. I really love it when songs return to a theme. And this is something I stole from classical music. Loads and loads of classical musicians used to do this, like Mozart and Beethoven. They go back to a theme. That's what we've got here. We're going to go back to these finger rolls and we're going to play an open C chord as far as an E note. Going to add the F. Open. Add the F. Then you'll notice on measure 37, rit. Ritandando it's short for, which means a slowing down. So the last two measures we go even slower. Until we hit the final measure. And notice that one has a funny symbol, doesn't it? Looks like a dot with a rainbow over the top. That's a fermata, one of my favourite musical symbols of all. Note of indeterminate length. That means that last chord, you just let it ring out and don't touch your uke again until it's finished ringing out. Okay. Incidentally, that's a C chord, that's the tonic. We've gone back to the root, if you like, of the key, the number 1 chord C. So it kind of makes it feel finished. But to add a touch of movement, we're adding these sus4s in. A sus4 just means we take a chord, in this case a C chord, which is the major triad C, E and G, and we take the 3rd note and we move it up to a 4th for a C sus4, or back to a 2nd for a C sus2. And that's all we're doing. In effect, we're just adding an F note to a C chord. So here's that final section after 3. 1, 2, 3. The sus chord. Off. On. Now really slow here. Imagine you've put the brakes on. Really tease out that last chord. Really nice. Now if you like, you can add this lovely sweet ending, which I did on the video. Now we're taking those 1 finger harmonics we learned in the last video. If you missed that, we're just touching the 12th metal fret, physically the metal fret, not the gap between the 2 bits of metal, the 12th metal fret. It's the one on the right after your 2 dots on most ukes. And we're going to touch that string with the pad of our index finger. We're not going to press, we're just going to touch it. And then with our thumb behind, we're going to pick as we lift that finger away for a harmonic. And the harmonics that I played was C, E string, G string, and then finally I did an artificial harmonic, which is interesting. If you want to play a note down here and you want to turn it into a harmonic up here, all you need to do is count how many frets along the note is. So this is 1, 2, 3, a C note, 1, 2, 3 here. And we have to pick the metal fret 3 up from the 12th. So instead of being 12, we go to 13, 14 and 15. And we pick at 15 and we get, that's better, a lovely harmonic matching the note here. So if I put that together, it's a clever way of outlining a C chord using harmonics at the end. Just a little tricky part you can put at the end for an extra bit of fun if you'd like to. Now, just before we finish off, I want you to notice something that this song uses quite a lot. It's quite a melancholic piece and I want a real legato feel to it. That means that a lot of the notes I like to flow really seamlessly into the next. So for instance, the start of measure 17, the start of that B section, really make sure these notes they really flow into each other. What we don't want is this sound. Now there's two reasons you can get that staccato sound by accident. The first is that you move this fretting hand to the next note too soon. So if I've played the start of that B section, notice as soon as I put my finger down for that 5th fret note, the high D, it kills the one before it. So be brave with this hand. Only place it down just before it's needed. And the same with this picking hand. If I touch the string before the next note is due, it kills everything dead, right? So don't be tempted to touch the string again with this finger, or thumb even, just before the next one is needed. And then you'll get this lovely fluid feel rather than... So that's something I really want you to bear in mind as you play through this one. We're really looking for a very relaxed, melancholy feel. Well, I hope you enjoyed that lesson, and hopefully you learned a couple of new techniques in there. Now, all of the pieces of repertoire that we're doing are a means to an end, so it's fantastic if you can play them perfectly. But at the moment, I'm using them to teach you a particular concept or technique. And today it was really concentrating on those rolled, those kind of finger rolls or rolled strums, and that's what I really wanted you to take away. So if you can, practice that A section with the finger rolls, and then the B section with either the nail brushes or the thumb, so we get that change in dynamics, which is really super important. In the next video we're going to change tact completely. We're still going to play a kind of chord melody, but it's more traditional fingerstyle, where we're playing across the strings, and I think you're going to have loads of fun with that one. So I will see you there in the next video. Take care everyone, happy uking, and I'll see you very soon. Cheers.